Hi, there we go. Gwen again, and this is the third video and the last one on the series that I've created on grief. There is an essay that goes with this. If you're watching this on YouTube, the link to the essay is down below. If you're seeing this on my blog, then you've read the essay because this is embedded beneath it. And if you got to this link through my newsletter, then you've also already read the essay. So today I wanted to talk about the holidays and anniversaries and other triggers that we experience in regards to grief. And I also wanted to talk about wardens for tasks of grief. As opposed to, or in place of, the traditional Kubler-Ross stages of grief. So we're coming up on the holiday season, and it can be an incredibly trying time. For most of us, at best, it's bittersweet. It's a time of year that we are very acutely reminded of the people that we have lost and the people who are no longer in our lives, either through death or because they have chosen or we have chosen to not have them, to not be a part of their lives or have them be a part of ours. So how do we manage that, right? How do we process grief as we are supposed to be in this like super happy, joyous, merry time of year, right? I say we allow ourselves to be sad. We allow ourselves the bittersweetness of this time of year, if there is any sweetness for us this time of year. For many people, there isn't. We get to feel what we are feeling. We get to experience that. There's nothing wrong with missing people who we loved, who are no longer a part of our lives. That's pretty normal, right? And to be expected, because if we didn't love them, we wouldn't miss them, right? And if we don't miss them, then we probably didn't love them also all that much, right? So one of the things that in my training as a grief counselor that we really focused on was the warden's tasks of grief, which are pretty straightforward, right? It is the acceptance of the loss of our person. It is the processing of the pain of that loss, right? And finding our ways to processing that. It is the acknowledging that this is not fun work, right? That we have a lot that goes on in our grief process, and that there are ups and downs and ins and outs, and that is to be expected, and that is normal. The third and fourth tasks are the ones that we really focused on at the grief center that I worked at. And one is the adjusting to an environment, our lives, without the person in it. And then that's the third task. And then the fourth is the being able to remain connected to this person in the ways that make sense and feel right to us while we continue to move forward in our lives, while we embark on the next stage of our life without them in it. One of the things that we did at the Grief Center with the kids was at Thanksgiving, we would have an art project where we would invite them to create a placemat for their person who died. And to ask their parents if they could set that at the table, so that there is an acknowledgement that this person is gone. I also invite people to create altars, right? With photograph, trinkets, movie stubs, right? Whatever it is that you want that helps remind you of the person, that honors them for you, right? I believe in our culture, we try to pretend that the dead never existed. And that isn't helpful for us. That doesn't actually help us process our pain. That doesn't actually help us acknowledge the reality that they're gone. That doesn't help us adjust to an environment without them, right? It it instead is gaslighting us, saying, "Oh, they never existed." But they did, and we know they did. And so we get to honor that. We get to honor our own emotions around that. We get to honor that person in the ways that we want to, or not, right? Sometimes we're grieving for a person who we had a very complicated relationship with. It may not have been all beautiful sunshine and roses, and yet we still miss them for any number of reasons, right? We don't have to honor the person if that's not right for us. And we can still honor our own complicated emotions about the loss and what that loss means for us. So, as we move into the holiday season and as we move into a time of year that is rife with triggers and reminders of those who aren't with us any longer, I invite you to create space for yourself to grieve and to create a connection with your person or persons, right, who have died in a way that feels right for you. And again, that could be an altar, right? It could be a placemat at the table. It could be, having a special ornament for that person this year that you purchase. Or perhaps you have ornaments from years past, right? If you do a Christmas tree, or some other something, trinket that was theirs that you can put out at this time of year to help you remember that yes, they existed, and yes, they were important, and yes, it is okay and to be expected that we miss them and that we're sad and that we're grieving. And we can have those feelings, that sadness, that grief, and all the complicated other emotions that can go with that, while we are also in other ways enjoying this time of year, right? I deeply miss my mom this time of year, and my grandmothers very much. And yet, this time of year is also beautiful because I have my kids and I have my husband, and we've created our own traditions through the years, and we celebrate and do things that are important for us. And so I get to carry both of those, and you get to carry both of those too, if that's where you are. And if that's not where you are, if you are in the newness and the rawness of a recent death and are grieving that, then you don't have to feel any of the fun, joy, happiness of this time of year. You don't. You absolutely don't have to. You get to be really sad and angry and all the other feelings that you have that your person's not here to celebrate with you. That's okay. And, right, also, you can feel your sadness and also be glad that they're not here to celebrate with you, right? You get to feel anything that you are actually feeling because it is your experience of grief. It is your experience of having that particular loved one and that particular relationship now gone from your life in the ways that you knew it. And what I appreciate what I appreciate about Warden's tasks is that it allows us to create a new relationship with our person who died. And that can be a very healing relationship for those of us who had very complicated relationships with some of the people who've died. It can be, it can simply be a very nourishing relationship for ourselves. So, bottom line, you get to feel what you feel. And regardless of what time of the year it is, regardless of what you're supposed to be feeling, regardless of how much fun you're supposed to be having, right? And for those of you who are in the early stages of a grief, give yourself a break, right? You get to cancel plans last minute. You get to, decide halfway through a thing or a quarter of the way through a thing or 5 minutes into a thing that you don't want to do it and you don't want to be there and you get to leave. That's all okay. You get to do that. And for those of us who are supporting others in their grief process, we get to then create the space where it's okay for them to do that, where it's okay for others to cancel last minute, where it's okay for others to show up for whatever the thing is and then say, I'm out of here, right? And we get to give them the grace of saying, it's okay. You get to process this in the ways that you need to. And I'm still here. And we can do this next year, or next week, or tomorrow, or in 3 months, or whatever, right? It's really important that we are able to create that space for our loved ones who are grieving. Because our culture sure as hell doesn't. And when we are able to do that for our loved ones who are grieving, we are helping them know they aren't alone. And we are actually helping them in their grief process, right? By allowing them to be where they are, instead of trying to force some agenda on them. Okay? Okay. Sending you love. I hope that no matter where you are, how you celebrate, or where you are in your grief process or any of that, that the next few months do bring peace and comfort and love to you. And know I'm here too. Okay. Bye.